What you get in the box is a DualShock 4 wireless controller, some printed manuals, a quick start guide, a mono headset, a USB cable, a AC power cord, an HDMI cable, and the Sony PlayStation 4 console itself. So after a 7-year wait, here we have it, the brand new Sony PlayStation 4 with its new parallelogram shape and its fingerprint attracting body, as you can see right here. So what's inside the new PS4? Well, it features a single chip custom processor, 8 AMD Jaguar CPU cores, 8 gigs of GDDR5 RAM, an AMD Radeon GPU, and a 500 gigabyte hard drive, which is upgradable. And what does all that mean? Basically, this little bitty black box has the power of I would say, high-end gaming PC. And that's pretty powerful. I would say we should be good for another 7 years to come, if that's when they release the new PlayStation 5. Okay, so let's talk about the ports. We have an AC in connector, a digital optical out port, an HDMI port, we have an Ethernet port, and an aux port. And this system shouldn't have any problems with cooling at all. You have vents all over the place. Starting with the back, you have them on the top and the bottom. You have them along both sides and on the front as well. Also on the front, you have 2 USB 3.0 ports, a power button, and right below that we have an eject button, and they are both touch sensitive, not actual buttons. And we also have a disc load-in slot right here. And on top of the PS4 we have our status light. Now setting up the PS4 for the first time takes approximately 5 minutes. First thing you need to do is plug in the HDMI cable and the power cord into the back of the PS4. And if you have a camera, go ahead and do that as well. That goes into the back of the aux port. Next up, plug the HDMI cable into the TV, plug the power cord into the wall, plug the USB cable into the front of the PS4, and plug the other end into the controller. Just don't take as long as this guy did. After that, turn the PS4 on for the first time. Now when you set up the PS4 for the first time, it's going to ask you to do some pretty familiar things like set up the date and time. And that's really it. It takes about 30 seconds. After that, you're all set, ready to go. As far as connecting to the internet, you can do that later, but there is a day 1 patch. So let's start with the design of the PS4. So first off, I do like it. I'm not extremely impressed with it. A lot of folks are. In my opinion, it doesn't scream, look at me, look at me. But what I do like about it is that it does have like a low-key, elegant design to it. And basically, it looks a lot more grown up than the PlayStation 3, if you remember how that thing looked when it first launched. It had a lot of chrome, people made fun of it, called it a George Foreman grill, and etc. This one actually reminds me of a PlayStation 2 that's a little bit fatter and has been slanted a little bit. But I'll tell you what impressed me the most about the design of this new PlayStation 4 is that it's actually smaller and lighter than the outgoing PlayStation 3 Slim. The outgoing PlayStation 3 Slim weighed approximately 3.2 kilograms, which is equivalent to 7.7 pounds. And the new PlayStation 4 weighs approximately 2.8 kilograms, which is equivalent to 6.1 pounds. Making it the first time in history that Sony has released a new PlayStation weighing less than its outgoing original predecessor. And in this case, the Slim model as well. Next up, the controller. Now, this is one of the things that impressed me the most about the PlayStation 4. This is the DualShock 4 controller. And really, it's the first major redesign since the original PlayStation. Now, I gotta admit, I was hoping for this. No, I'm just kidding. I wasn't hoping for this. Seriously though, Sony did a fantastic job with this controller. Now, it does weigh a little bit more than the outgoing controller, but by literally points of an ounce, it doesn't weigh that much more at all. So you won't notice the difference. But it feels a whole lot better in the hands than the outgoing controller. In fact, it's my favorite gaming console controller so far today. Before this, it was the Xbox 360 controller, but this one, as of right now, feels better than that to me. It features a new clickable and very responsive touchpad. It also has a built-in speaker,
shipping manifest 226 Delta,
a light bar which has a few different uses, one of them being a health monitor. So right now he's playing a game, it's green meaning he's okay, it can go down to yellow meaning watch out, and it can also go to red meaning you're in critical condition. And on the bottom, a 3.5mm headphone jack, making a wireless headset no longer necessary. And if you're going to use a wired one, you no longer have to drag it across the floor, you just plug it to the bottom of the controller. The back of the controller has a stippled grippy material feel to it, and it did a really good job with that. Unlike the last controller, after you play with it for about a few months, it starts to get slippery. This one, that grip should last for quite a while. The share and option buttons are new features added as well. But overall, Sony really knocked this one out of the park. In fact, I challenge you, once you get your PS4, play with this controller for about a week or so, and then grab your DualShock 3 controller. You're not even gonna want to play with it. It just feels bad compared to this one. You might just throw it out the window. And check this out, you can have the PlayStation 4 check the controller to make sure it's working properly. And up next we have the PlayStation camera, which is pretty neat. Kind of reminds me of those blocks we used to use in kindergarten. It comes with a foldable stand. It features 4 built-in microphones. It has a field of view of 85 degrees. It has a dual camera setup, and as far as video frame rate goes, it's 1280 by 600 pixels at 60 frames per second, 640 by 400 pixels at 120 frames per second, and 320 by 192 at 240 frames per second. Now, there aren't a lot of games or apps, I guess, to work with this camera yet, but the few that are on here, I've had a lot of fun with them. For example, face recognition works almost perfectly. So in this case, I'm using it to log in. Here's a look at one of the games that came with the PS4 to go with the camera. Now, keep in mind, this room we're in right here, it looks pretty bright, but it really wasn't. And we didn't have any problems as far as tracking motion goes. So here, check it out. And I realize I'm in the background looking very unimpressed, and that's because I had played with this thing earlier and I wanted to see how it react to someone else's face. I did. And this game is really fun. You really get involved in it. You keep trying to smack this robot to make him mad, and next thing you know, you end up smacking somebody. Voice recognition is pretty good, but it doesn't work perfectly.
PlayStation. Start. Home screen. Take screenshot. Back to game. Home screen. Home screen. Power. Turn off PS4.
Now, as far as the new interface goes, well, first let's talk about the old one. Now, me personally, I didn't have a problem with the old one at all. The only issue I did have with it was the fact that it was kind of slow and laggy at times. And the biggest, change that I've seen is this one is the complete opposite of that. It's very, very, very fast in terms of navigating through menus, exiting out of games, switching between profiles, and that is a huge plus because, as you know, we gamers are always in a hurry. I don't know why, but we like to just get things done really quickly, and Sony has really improved on the speed of the interface. And also, it's pretty easy to adapt to. You'll get used to using this new menu literally in a matter of minutes once you play around with everything. And as far as like the PlayStation Store goes and stuff like that, they left a lot of that the same, which is good because the last iteration of the PlayStation Store wasn't bad at all. So good job there. Now, they really added a lot of new social media stuff to this. So this is really geared towards, I guess, being more interactive with the online community. And for those of you who like to interact and share stuff and see what's going on with your friends, what they're playing, then you're going to love this new interface. And now the last thing to cover is games. And really there isn't a lot to talk about because, well, there's not a lot of games out right now. And one of the games that I really want to play, which is not available, is Watch Dogs. That game looked really impressive. And, well, we can't get it right now. But Killzone looks really good. Plays fine. Assassin's Creed, looks really good as well, and it's a pretty cool game. Need for Speed Rivals, which is a game that is very fun, but the graphics aren't that impressive to me. But the game itself is really fun, and really that's what matters. And here's a quick fact about me: I love car games; they're my favorite. With that being said, the only problem I experienced with the PS4 playing games was a couple frame rate issues. There was a couple instances where it would drop off and shudder a little bit, and also the PS4 controller, every so often it just would not respond. Now I'm not sure if I have a defective unit or a defective controller. It doesn't happen a lot, but it's still happening as of today. Every so often the controller would not respond for about 2 seconds, literally 2 seconds, then it would respond fine. But that didn't happen a lot, probably about 10 times within the past week and a half, which is still more than enough. But to sum it up about games, if you're not extremely impressed with the lineup that they have now, keep in mind when the original PlayStation 3 launched in 2006, it wasn't that impressive either as far as the games went, but a year later came this game called Uncharted, which kind of knocked everyone off their feet. And as time goes on and PlayStation 3 kind of fades away, it's going to take a little while. That's going to be around for a little while. It's going to get cheaper. But as it kind of fades away, developers will start to focus more on the PlayStation 4 and really develop games just for the PlayStation 4. That always happens. So as years progress, basically what I'm trying to say is the games always get a whole lot better. So to sum it all up, should you buy a PlayStation 4? Well, of course you should buy a PlayStation 4. And if I said no, you would go out and buy one anyway. This system is amazing. The graphics are better than ever. The speed is amazing. Multitasking is a whole lot easier now. Downloading updates in the background is a huge plus. The controller is fantastic. And the best thing of all is that it has a somewhat common processor, meaning it's going to make it really easy for developers to develop games for this new PS4. The PlayStation 3 had a cell processor, which made it kind of difficult for developers to develop games for because they didn't know a lot about it. This one has a somewhat common processor, so we should get a lot more awesome games a lot faster. The indie developers are going to love this thing. Oh, and there's one more thing. You hear that? You're worried, I hear? Is the Xbox One better? Well, you shouldn't be, because on paper, the PlayStation 4 outperforms it. PlayStation. But paper doesn't mean everything. We'll just have to see in a few days when it comes out. So that's been my review of the Sony PlayStation 4. Take care. I'll see you guys in our next video, and thanks for watching.